the President, Senator Bola Tinubu, seems to have teared the North into two. Of course, the North is now totally divided. The Fulanis are already in disarray, because for what we are seeing, you can clearly see the governors of almost the whole northern states already going with the president. Perhaps this is why they say the man Tinubu is a strategist. We are seeing so many people, even if you look at the last meeting that was held by the, of course, the chief of staff to the president, talking about Bajabiamela, the class of House of Rep members, of course, unanimously endorsed the president. And of course, from what is coming from the North is totally divided. But let me quickly say that if you look at the grievance of the North, for me, most of those things are not justified. And I want to say that if the North want to continue sticking to most of this unjustifiable claim and reason for demanding for power, I think Tinubu should even use his office to make sure he restructures Nigeria. Or if need be, let us go for, of course, self-determination, so that the North will know that they are the greater beneficiary of the current fraudulent status quo of Nigeria. Because I'm going to think of it, how can Northerners be accusing federal government for out-of-school children in the North? I understand that the responsibility of training the children, of course, under universal basic education, lie in the trade tiers of government. However, what we hope for government, federal government to do is to come about the policy direction and intervention funding. The implementation and seeing to the working of it rests on the state governments and the local governments. And I think that is what the southern part of the country have been doing over the years. And again, if you look at out-of-school children in the North, it accounts for the major reason insurgency is fertile in the North. Now they're already transporting it into the southern part of the country. For instance, it is not by coincidence that Kebbi State has the highest level of out-of-school children. We are talking about 67.6%. And they represent about 1.06 million children who are supposed to be in school, who are within the age of 0 and 16, who are not in school. And now you are blaming federal government, that federal government should come and address it. Now, we equally know that a state like Sokoto has 66.43%. Yobe has 67.9%. Of course, Zamfara has 61.3%. Then Bauchi has 55.7%. Of course, Borno has 54.2%. Then Jigawa has 51.1%. Kano has 39.2%. So the question is, why are we seeing all the states that has the highest level of child out-of-school children in the North? Why are they not in the South? Because the same thing that applies in the North applies in the South. The same way federal government provides policy direction and intervention fund for universal basic education for Southerners, the same thing it does in the North. So it's going to show that the money that is being voted for the child education in the North, of course, the leaders there are not using it. And that is why their children is easily available, vulnerable to be radicalized into insurgency, into Boko Haram, into ISWAP. We not be concerned how even the North kicked against Jonathan, who was then building series of evangelist schools in almost every part of the North, as he was bringing education to the people. So I want to even equally say it again, that if this is the reason the North is coming about the coalition to demand for a Northern candidacy or a Northern president, I think the Tinubu should even use his office to ensure that this country, of course, tear apart. That everybody go in separate ways. Because we understand that even when agriculture was the ministry of economy, when we had the era of Grand Pyramid, the North was taking 50% or whatever comes from their state in terms of derivation. Then let me quickly look at what we have here, because I told you that the North already split into two. This one is coming from the Punch newspaper. It's a North splits over Tinubu marginalization claim. You go for that to say that the political and civic leadership of the Northern Nigeria converged in Kaduna on Tuesday for a landmark assessment of President Bola Tinubu's administration. An event that laid bare deep divisions within the region over claims of marginalization and performance of the federal government. While some stakeholders lauded Tinubu's developmental strides and appointments in the North, others voiced strong concerns over what they describe as growing neglect, insecurity, and economic exclusion under his watch. The point here is the issue of marginalization. I don't know where the North derived that from, because under Muhammadu Buhari, we saw another level of marginalization. I can categorically tell you that under Muhammadu Buhari, if you look at about 17 positions, when you talk about security positions, talking about from the office of the National Security Advisor to the office of Chief of Defense Staff, Chief of Air Staff, Chief of Naval Staff, Chief of Director of GSS, National Intelligence Agency, the headman, of course, Custom, Director General, NAFDAC, DG, and all of that. We are talking about 17 positions. The only thing that went to the South is about 3 or 4. The North took everything. Let me say, in all of this, no one is even making mention of the man Atiku himself, because if you understand that even in the North, there is so much talk about P2B. Of course, even those who hit Atiku before now do not see P2B as someone to be reckoned with, are already talking about P2B. For instance, the son of the former governor of Kaduna State, talking about Nasir El-Rufai, was making very emphatic the other day that it is P2B that can unseat the man Tinubu come 2027, not even an Atiku. So it's going to show that the South is well positioned to actually take what belongs to them come 2027. And again, let us equally look at this one, talking about how the man Tinubu have successfully divided the North, set them in disarray. This one is equally coming from the Punch newspaper. He's saying Tinubu re-election, Northern ex-lawmakers split over presidency meeting. You go for that to say that the federal lawmakers from Northern Nigeria are divided over President Bola Tinubu's 2027 re-election bid, following an endorsement by the Northern Caucus following endorsement for the Northern Caucus Forum of the 9th National Assembly. The caucus, in a communique at the end of a dialogue session convened by the Chief of Staff to the President, Femi Gbajabiamila, threw its weight behind President's re-election bid, describing him as a national leader with a demonstrated commitment to equitable development across all regions of Nigeria. So for what I see here, it's no longer a rumor that the North is seriously polarized along two different lines. But the question here is, it is a turn of the South. Come 2027. The North must tolerate other people in power, just as the Southern part of the country tolerated them for 8 years. And if you look at what the then president, talking about Muhammadu Buhari, did, it is, we saw serious level of marginalization under his watch, particularly against the eastern part of the country. And as of then, we even had the president was saying that those that give him 5% attention will get that give him 5% vote will get 5% attention. And that is obviously what he did to the Igbos under his watch. To the point that, at the point, he said the Biafrans are like a dot in a circle. So, however they not look at it, they must realize that the South have an uninterrupted 8 years in Aso Rock. Thereafter, a Northerner will come. Because that tacit agreement, that original agreement that allowed Muhammadu Buhari to stay there for 8 years, that allowed an ambassador to spend 8 years, must be respected and must be sustained if we must see a united Nigeria and for purpose of national cohesion. But again, let me quickly say that the major problem we have in this country currently is issue of banditry. And the banditry is seriously associated with activities of Fulani herders and Fulani militias. And the way it is, Fulani militias have been described as the 4th most dangerous terrorist organization in the world. And you have a situation where even under Muhammadu Buhari, the then government paid the Fulani militias, or would I call them Fulani under Mietiala, a good amount of money that runs into billions of naira to stop killing. So it's going to show that the government, or rather the North, know where this problem is coming from. Because even the then president was emphatic that those who wreak havoc in Nigeria are strangers who perhaps come all the way from Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger, and find their way in Nigeria. And the government will always give excuse of network glitch. Sorry, the government will always give excuse of porous borders. I understand that Nigeria has so many borders. There's no argument about that. But I don't think the porous border is an excuse. Because Nigeria being a sovereign state should be able to possess monopoly of coercive power to police every inch of its territorial integrity. So porous border is not an excuse. I know the concern talking about the recent meeting with, of course, Adaleru, who have a bunch of 5 million on his head, who held meeting with the governors of Katsina and that of Zamfara recently, and you could clearly see a bandit leader addressing state governors. You need to wonder, our sovereignty is not already called to question. And again, even the likes of Toji Bello, talking about the one that wreaks havoc in parts of Zamfara, yes, who the military the other time said they have neutralized his cousin, who doubled as his field commander recently. That is a good one anyway. But however I look at it, the man Toji Bello himself needs to be taken out from the battlefield or arrested and prosecuted to act as a deterrent to others. Because this issue of insecurity is a major concern for everyone. And the way it is, what had to happen in the north is already here with us in the southern part of the country. And all hands must be on deck to address it. I understand that the federal government have recently come up with the idea of forest guard. I think it's a good one because all effort to earn security arrangement at the state level under the last administration of Muhammad Buhari proved abortive because of a clause in our system that says that for you to procure and deploy arms of that capacity, you will need an extra security that comes from the Office of the National Security Advisor. Of course, that is the reason after the establishment of Amateku in the southern part of the country, we threw out of state House of Assembly in the state or in the region, they could not be armed because it was not permitted, or rather the Office of National Security Advisor then did not give out the necessary license for such. And I equally note the concern the other time when, of course, in the eastern part of the country, Mietiala will approach the state governors that they want to float vigilante. You begin to wonder, in a region that is alien to you, you're a visitor, telling your host that they want to come up with security arrangement. For me, that is a total subjugation they wanted to do. And even this recent bill that seeks to even impose Sultan of Sokoto as a permanent chairman of Nigerian traditional rulers, I think for me is abnormal, because I can understand that the Igbos, the people of Niger Delta, the people of Middle Belt were never at any point in time under the command and control of the Sultan of Sokoto. So how can you be thinking of a bill that want to compel people who have different origin, who are different, of course, who have existed several years before the white men came here, to come under the Fulani? I think that was too bad. And of course, though the bill have gone for first and second reading, but my major concern has to do with the inability of the lawmakers from this area where this happened to come up, or rather to defend those they claim to represent in the Senate. Because that's the thing I passed first and second reading. The next time is coming on board, or rather the relevant committee of the Senate will be reverted to the Senate, to the entire House. Of course, they may be taking final decision on it, and the third reading will take place. So you go to show that all the senators from the regions, maybe South, Southeast, Middle Belt, were not, or rather didn't represent their people adequately, because nobody heard their voice, or rather their voices at the level of the plenary during the voting. Let's even be that they tried and that their voices were not heard. We didn't hear anything of such. I must say that we must all think out of the box to get things right in this country. Thank you very much.